Perfect. Awesome. Thanks, guys, for coming in. Like Chris said, my name's Hannah Grebner. So I am a digital marketing director here at American Eagle. And unfortunately, Sean Dunlap will not be able to join us. He's sick, so we told him to stay home for all of your guys' benefits. So basically, our agenda for today is going through 5 steps to drive quality traffic to your website. Again, we want to make sure that we're putting that emphasis on quality over quantity traffic, because really our end goal is to drive conversions on your websites. So how do we start to identify quality traffic? So we want to make sure that we are building out audience personas. And audience personas, if you guys weren't in the workshop this morning, they're really just a visualization of your ideal customer, your target market. They are a single representation of that target market. So think of them as a single entity, a single identity. So how do you create these audience personas? Like I said, they're that single person, so give them a name. This may seem weird and funny, but it really helps to remember that individual when you're going through this practice. So definitely give them a name, make it creative, make it something that you can remember, and then review their demographics. What's their age? What's their job, their gender, where are they located, income levels? All of that information should be within this audience persona. And then really kind of the meat of this is understanding the psychographics. So what are their motivators? What are their goals? What are their desires, frustration points, challenges, understanding kind of what their day-to-day is like. And then build that out into a story. Give a rundown of when they wake up, what are the things that they need to do to accomplish their goals. When they browse online, what are they looking for? Build that out, drive it into a story. So then this is what this looks like in practice. We have this client, ABC Coffee Shop. They came and they wanted to build out audience personas for their digital presence. So we have Katie here. She's a grad student. So she is super busy with her classwork. She wants to be able to study. She has, the need for caffeine throughout the day. So she definitely wants to be able to get her coffee, get her jolt, have a quiet place to study. She doesn't want distractions, doesn't want to talk with the staff at the coffee shop. She wants to, order online. So we want to make sure that we have all of her goals, all of her motivations, her frustration points mapped out in this persona. And then you'll see here on the bottom, pull out her digital usage. Where is she online? Where is she, spending her time browsing online? So definitely LinkedIn, looking at job postings. She's on her banking apps for her student loans, her university website, doing research online. Understanding where her digital presence is really critical when building out these audience personas. So this leads straight into step number 2, is locate where your audience is digitally. Really understand where they spend their time, because that's where you're going to connect with them. Those micro touch points of where they're already spending their time online is where you need to get in front of that audience base. So to do this, really review online sources. Review mentions of your brand, your competitors, your industry. We use tools like Mention, Google Alerts, Quora to find this information and monitor these mentions, these trends for searches. And then don't forget to audit your existing traffic. Get an understanding of where your existing base already spends their time. So this example here on the left, this is a snapshot from Google Analytics. This client came to us and said, our audience base is all on Snapchat. That's where we get the most engagement. All our content's really great. And when we take a look back, we're like, no. Facebook and Instagram is where your engaging content is. And that's where your audience is, most present and most engaged. So once you gather all this information, you understand what your demographics of your audience base is, where they're, digitally engaged online. You can use this information to build out audience lists within your different ad platforms, and then within your different marketing platforms. So building out your audience based on location and based on job or education level, based on search topics. So we have coffee as a trending topic based in the location of the Chicagoland area. We can grab those audience members. And then again, job field, study field, and then really kind of see that target audience or that target lift within these platforms. So on the right there, you can see we have a target audience of 120,000 plus, and then it breaks down based on job function. So we have all of this information at our fingertips. It's just mining that and then using that. So then step number 3 here is, again, using that information to attract these people through personalization. So users right now expect messaging to be super unique and tailored to their needs. So the benefits of personalization is you're going to generate more qualified leads. It may be fewer, but your close rate's going to increase. You'll have higher engagement. You'll have improved relevancy scores, specifically within your ads, which in turn lowers your ad costs. And then you'll have overall better brand awareness and loyalty moving forward. So you can see here on the right, this is just a quick Google search of quiet coffee shops to study near me. And I get, very personalized information where it'll even pull up the times that this coffee shop is the busiest, so I can pop in this coffee shop when it's a little quieter. So some different tactics to start taking when it comes to personalization. The first one is super basic, retargeting. When a user comes to your website, browses a product, they should see that product on different platforms that they are then browsing. So that's super easy way to get a user to come back to your website. Local personalization. This is really good for if you're using weather forecasts in emails. If it gets chilly in one area, send them an email for jackets. So definitely utilize that piece of functionality. And then finally, channel personalization. So this could be personalizing messaging, promotions, based on the channels that people are utilizing. So an example of all 3 of these tactics in practice is this app that ASICS has. So basically, when you purchase your running shoes through ASICS, you can load them into this app. They retarget based on the shoes that you've purchased in the past or browsed in the past. They will give you recommendations for running routes based on the weather in your specific area. And then when you hit your mileage on your shoes, they automatically send you an alert to purchase new shoes. So then once you've identified, located, attracted your audience, this qualified traffic, we now need to turn to the website itself. And this is where we capture that traffic into a lead. So your landing page really plays a critical piece in capturing your lead. So here's some different must-haves for that landing page layout. First, they need to have a strong headline. They need to have points of interest, like a testimonial, offers. They need to have a call to action or calls to action. And then finally, the content placement needs to be strategic. How should this page flow to best capture that lead? So points of interest, when we say that, this means graphical banners, offers, testimonials, social proof, any kind of review or rating system. These are all really compelling ways to grab the user's attention when they first land on this page. And then calls to action, everyone kind of knows what these are. But the location of the call to action is really critical. So definitely make sure it's in maybe a hero banner within a page division, including one at the end of the page to make sure that people who actually do scroll to the bottom of the page have that strong call to action and they don't have to scroll all the way back up to the top of the page. And then finally, the strategic content or element placement on the page. This is really determined based on data. So we utilize heat mapping tools like a Hotjar paired with Google Analytics to really understand, where are people dropping off on the page? How far do they scroll down on our page? What's kind of the best engagement with pieces of content? And that really determines how we would lay out or switch a page up. So when we do this, we like to A/B test kind of all of our decisions. So we have this case study here of an A/B test. Our hypothesis was if we removed the larger images on variation A, we would get more clicks to our calls to action. So just a quick show of hands, A as the winner. Okay, and B. It's actually a pretty 50-50 split. So the winner for this test was actually version B. So our hypothesis was proved correct. If we did remove the larger images, we supposed that we would get more calls to action clicks, and this happened to be the case. However, it's super unique. We could run this exact same test on another website with a completely different audience base, and version A may be the winner. So this is why we always want to make sure that we test every decision that we make to validate the data that we're seeing. So A/B testing can go through a myriad of different ways and a myriad of different elements within a page. So some common A/B tests include your calls to action buttons. This could be the color of the button, the messaging, size, or even just placement on the page for that button. The forms, this is a really good area to make sure that you're A/B testing. How long is the form? What are the different fields? Is the headlines above the field or within the field? When someone mistypes in information, what's the error message? All of those pieces are really great elements to A/B test within a form. And then finally, your graphical elements, so banner callouts, navigation, the mobile view of your website is critical to A/B test. All right. So once we have identified, located, attracted, and captured our lead, we need to convert that customer. So this is obviously the critical piece in this 5-step process. And one of the best ways to convert a customer into a long-term loyal customer is through email. So there's lots of different campaign types, email types to start sending out to your user base once you capture that email address. So weekly newsletters, monthly newsletters, special offers and deals. The just for you or personalized content is really, really engaging. So you can see here works email for recently viewed products, or we think you'll like these types of products are really good. The Chewy email over there is like, hey, are you running low on this product? Time to reorder. And then nurturing campaigns, again, are a really great way to tailor content in a personalized manner to your user base. So when a user signs up initially, make sure they get a welcome series to introduce the brand, tell them what they should be doing next, kind of push them along into that, conversion funnel, basically. So you can do that through educational content, document downloads, all of that information. You can also do this through creative content. So utilizing different types of content within your emails or types of content within your landing pages is always a really good way to personalize the message towards that user and test which type of content is a little bit more engaging to that user base. So content like videos, infographics, any kind of different messaging other than text-based messaging. And then also don't, forget to take everything offline as well. Your user base does not, unfortunately, does not stay on your website 24/7. So they have lives, and you should also try and connect with them offline. So direct mailers is actually a really good way to produce that message across into a different format. So there, you can also track this. You can add your landing page, QR code, all of that fun stuff. But just another good way to keep top of mind with your user base. And finally, this is a big trend, specifically within the last year or so, but it's technology that's been around for ages. But SMS messages. More and more people are likely to interact with direct text messages from companies. So 98% of text messages are read, and 90% within the first 3 minutes. I know personally, I hate the little red dot on my phone for any unread text messages, so I look at every single one, no matter who it's from. So it's definitely a good way to send that one-to-one communication with your audience base in a quick, easy to read format. They can click through links back to your website. And again, just still being that bug in their ear and making sure that they're just aware of your brand. So some summaries and takeaways. We wanted to make this a little bit actionable for you guys. So again, these are those 5 steps to drive quality traffic to your website, is to identify your audience, make sure you build your personas, locate your audience, understand where your users are digitally, attract your audience, personalize that message towards the audience base, capture your audience, drive that engagement through data, backed decisions, A/B testing, and then finally convert that audience. So make sure that you're pushing them into that conversion funnel, and then once they have made that purchase or have submitted that lead form and they are your customer, that you're retargeting them through different methods. And that's the presentation. So the digital marketing team, we handle basically kind of everything that we outlined today. So if you have any questions or concerns about audience personas, marketing strategies, A/B testing, email marketing, analytics, all of that fun stuff, feel free to reach out to us. But we can open it up to questions.
Any questions for Hannah? I'll ask one while we're waiting for them to develop their list. So what if you have content coming to your, or visitors coming to your site that are not appropriate, right? So for example, let's say you're in the brush industry, right? You make industrial brushes, and someone's looking, they type in a certain keyword for brush, and you happen to show up, even though you're not really offering that sort of brush. They come to your site and they instantly realize this is not where I need to be. How can you sort of help prevent people from kind of going astray and coming to your site when the content really isn't what they're looking for based on their keywords?
Yeah, that's a really good question, and it's all kind of based back towards what channel that they're coming through. So if you're running a paid search campaign and they come through on a keyword that's just not relevant, you can go straight into your paid search campaign and exclude that keyword, and then basically you're excluding that traffic completely. If they come organically, it's a little bit of a harder process. You would want to see, okay, what was that specific keyword or key phrase that drove that user to the site? What was that landing page? What's the content on that landing page that's basically pushing our page up within search rankings for that particular search that may be irrelevant? And then how can we maybe change the content on that page to start eliminating some of that traffic?
I don't know if this is true or if it was just a made-up thing, but someone told me that we used to have on our site here a referral link for the clothing store, and we were getting like $8,000 a month in referral fees for people looking for acid wash jeans and stuff like that weren't obviously going to find what they wanted on our site, but we were making bank on it, so we kept it for a while, and then they caught on, and I think somebody pulled the plug on it, but it was kind of a fun thing. Any questions? Anyone? Yes, right here.
You were talking about finding the digital footprint of the persona. Other than good hard work, how else do you dig that out?
Yeah, so it's a lot of research based. So once you kind of demonstrate or determine, the demographics and kind of psychographics of your audience base, there's tons and tons of research out there that kind of match up these people with these demographics. Typically are on X, Y, and Z websites, and people who would have more use of your product or service. You can find those information, like what websites or what platforms that those people tend to gravitate towards, basically in their digital lives. And it's almost like you kind of have to break it down based on personal use versus professional use as well. So if you're targeting a professional person, you want to make sure that you're targeting what their digital presence is like professionally versus personally.
So here's another question I have for you that maybe will spark some other thoughts. So I have a son who's a senior in high school, and he's applying for colleges, and he gets a ton of mail with personalized links to go into a school's website and access something that was predetermined or personalized for him based on what they know about his interests, right? You see that also with credit card offers, right? You get a credit card, something in the mail or online, and it's a personalized URL specifically to you. Talk a little bit about the science behind that and where that would be worthwhile, maybe, and where it might prove to be either problematic or not worth the effort.
Yeah, I think it's definitely worthwhile, especially kind of in that university basis, because it makes you feel good. If you get called out by name, by interest type, like, hey, we know that you're interested in majoring in business. Here's a link to our business school. Here's all the testimonials from a business student. And it just makes you kind of feel a little bit warm and fuzzy inside. You're like, oh, they get me. And I feel like, deep down from a psychological space, every consumer just wants to feel known. So when you kind of reach out and provide that information in a non-creepy way, it's definitely powerful. So then kind of on the flip side is when you get a little too personalized, and it can be a little bit creepy. So making sure that you're using information that would push towards a conversion and not using information that would kind of sour that relationship.
Obviously, you'd want to find a tool or something that can automate that, because if you've got, I used to work in higher ed, if you've got 40,000 prospects, you don't want to have somebody hand key 40,000 individual URLs, college name dot whatever name, Colin dot Remington dot whatever, right? So there are tools out there that can do that, certainly in the education space, but others as well. Any other questions? Anyone behind the? Yes. Okay. I knew you were going to have something there. Hold on.
So we're defining personas, and we're B2B. So I'm looking at an electrician, looking at an industrial, commercial, by segment, by company segment. Now that we know that, and we want to see how they come into our website, how do we identify that persona so we know what behavior they're portraying or what they're coming in to look for?
Yeah, that's a great question. And especially within the B2B space, which is nice because typically if you're in a B2B space, you're working from an office. So you'll all kind of have the similar IP addresses that you can pull and understand, okay, this group of people came from this IP address. They all started to behave in this manner. And you can kind of start to group people in that space. Additionally, it's, again, gathering that understanding of your existing audience base. So pulling who are our existing customers in terms of, did they come from this institution versus this institution, and building out profiles based on that. And then reaching towards other businesses within that, subsect of your audience.
Can you talk maybe a little bit about sort of how this would plug into a content strategy, right? So you've got messaging on social, right? You've got messaging through email. You might have content on a blog or on the site, right? I found that a lot of times clients will just be overwhelmed by the amount of content they think they have to prepare. But using a content calendar and being able to repurpose content, I mean, we talked before about duplicate content, but being able to repurpose it in social, on a blog, on the website, in an email, how does that help in terms of kind of consistent messaging and also lessening the burden on the content creation on the company side?
Yeah, and you hit it with consistent. So what's really great about kind of following this 5-step process in order is the first step is identifying your audience. So when you're doing these personas, you're not going to have 20 plus personas. You want to create personas in categories or kind of buckets of maybe like 4, 5, 10 max. So that way, when you're going through your content strategy, you have to develop content for 10 buckets, not, hundreds of individual people or individual users coming to your site. So the content in its, entirety isn't going to be individually personalized. It's going to be audience persona personalized. So that's kind of a little bit of an easier way to chunk down content into a digestible fashion.
Yeah, well, one thing that maybe is a play on what was asked over here. What's your name again? I'm sorry, Eric. What Eric asked. I mean, if you really do have two different audiences, right? I'll give an example. A client of mine in the past they were in the appliance space, right? Consumer and bars, right? And you're coming to the site, you're either a bar owner or you're a consumer and you want these appliances, right? What's the benefit or the problems by having on your homepage, if you're a consumer, you want this for your house, click here. If you're a bar owner, click here. And then you go down two separate paths. Does that make sense? Or is it better to sort of keep them together but still have call-outs that are different within each product detail page?
And that sounds like a perfect A/B test. So you could develop 3 variations. Develop a variation where you have a single landing page for both audiences. They have to self-select. I would then develop a variation where it has that kind of split, where if you're a consumer, click here. If you're a bar owner, click here. And then I would do a third variation where you could personalize that page based on who that person is, based on that audience persona. So if I'm a bar owner and I come to the website, I get shown the bar owner page. Or if I'm a consumer and I come to the website, I get shown the consumer page.
How would you do that if you didn't necessarily know who they were? I mean, if they have not offered up information and they're not cookied from a previous visit or they've not signed in, I mean, is it kind of a guess at that point, or do you?
Yeah, so in that scenario, you would have to basically retarget after the fact. If they were a bar owner, then you could send them into that test. But, yeah.
Good stuff. Yep. Question?
I have a question related to the testing. Like the A/B testing, it's very scenario based, but when there are different personas, do you also do the multivariant testing? Like, because A/B testing, it's very basic and like it's A or B, but there are personas where we need to do more than A/B testing. So is it something you do regularly, or is it just the A/B testing that is preferred?
Yeah, so you could do multivariate as well. We just classify it as A/B testing in general, but that's such a great point. As you can easily see how unwieldy a program could get, because you could test, A, B, C multivariate across all your audience personas, or you could dive into one audience persona and do multivariate testing within that audience persona, different testing within another audience persona. So there's definitely a matrix kind of base approach to a full-blown testing program.
It's great to hear these questions and comments about testing and analytics, because I think I mentioned yesterday, I've had a lot of clients that never look at their analytics and just say, here's the site. You find what you need to find, and I'm not going to go through the trouble of doing what you're talking about, right, which is trying to serve up the content. But I think as we're going along now, people are expecting that personalization, right? And so anything that can be done to help make that easier, both for the customer, but also on the back end, right, the workflows from the customer or from the client perspective is certainly a benefit too, right?
Yeah, and our whole thought process, especially within A/B testing, is, we're in these sites every single day. The recommendations that we're providing are truly recommendations. They're based in data that we've seen, from that website and other websites, especially within the same industry. But each website is unique. Each audience or user base on a website is unique. So there's no 100% fail-safe, assurance that a recommendation will work unless we A/B test or multivariate test.
Well, one other question, unless someone else has one, I've got lots here. What about using a QR code as a pull, right? I've seen that on TV screens now. If you're sitting there with your mobile phone, you can take a picture of it. Sometimes even in an email, they'll get that QR code. For a while, those were left for dead, and they were really not that effective as a tool, but now you see them on the backs of buses and kind of all over the place. Are they kind of seeing a resurgence, and are they worth sort of investing in, and is it worth the trouble to sort of customize that QR code for some of these personas you're talking about?
Yeah, it's interesting that this is like one of the things that kind of is in our post-COVID world is QR codes really died out pre-COVID, and then once COVID hit, no one wants to use paper, or no one wants to use menus. You go to your restaurant, you scan it, so it's definitely been a resurgence of old technology, and direct mailers is a great way to include a QR code, pull that in, and then make sure that you track these. So everything can be tracked into Google Analytics. You have that full picture when you're sending out direct mail. Someone scans that QR code, they come to your website, you're able to see that traffic then.
I've always said the great thing about the web is it's quantifiable and it's measurable, but the bad thing about the web is it's quantifiable and it's measurable, right? Yeah. So just because you can measure it doesn't mean that you should, but you've got so much access to so much data, you might not know what to do with it all, right? But if you're going to take the time to do these tests and everything, then use that information to better the experience, right? That's ultimately what you want to try to do. All right, any other questions from the room here? Everyone's looking hungry. All right, Hannah, thank you.
Awesome.
Wonderful as
Thanks,
always.
guys.